Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Day 2 of the Zero Project Conference 2024. I'm very delighted of all of our in-audience participants here at the United Nations office at Vienna and to our global audience online. For those of you who perhaps can hear me but not see me, my name is WEIS. I'm the Director of International Affairs at the Zero Project. I'm a white Caucasian male in his early 30s. And much like my receding hairline, I'll try to keep this introduction short and sweet because the true stars of today's sessions are really fantastic speakers who will give us really an insight into what makes great disability films. Also, just for those online, we're here at the United Nations all seated on a big wide blue table using table microphones, and everyone's smiling of the speakers because they're all very excited to really dive into what is going to be perhaps one of the most interesting formats of the Zero Project Conference. Expect a lot of movie clips and expect also an engaging conversation with you in the audience. So really think about what you would like to ask our speakers here on stage. They're at your disposal and they're looking for that engagement. I think I'll end on a quote of Charlie Chaplin, a pioneer of visual storytelling, if you may, who once said, "We think too much and we feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness." And I think it's in that spirit of our session that we would like to delve deep into the heart of disability filmmaking, to really feel the true essence of inclusion, accessibility, and to connect with our audiences, the audiences here, the audiences who will go into the cinemas or sit in front of the TV and watch what our speakers create, direct, or perform in. So without further ado, I just want to say be prepared for fantastic movie clips of disability films that hit the mark, and let's embark on that journey together in the spirit of Charlie Chaplin, with his emphasis on our common humanity. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker of today, Ravit, TURJEMAN, Director of International Programs at ReelAbilities. If you haven't heard of it, it's the New York Disabilities Film Festival you should know of, who really have left a mark in the disability community with the showcasing of movies, regional and global, that I encourage you all to look up. And Ravit will tell us a bit more.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be back at the Zero Conference. I never followed the Charlie Chaplin quote before, so that's great. I'm honored. And actually, when Robin introduced this panel, he mentioned that we're going to talk about what makes great disability films. I actually think we're going to talk about what makes great films, and that's disability inclusion. And I'm here with fellow producers, distributors, content makers, talent, and I represent ReelAbilities Film Festival, which, as Robin mentioned, is the largest US showcase, actually in the world, but we're being a bit modest, a showcase of films made by or about people with disabilities, and we use film to change perceptions and promote awareness for advancing a more inclusive and accessible society. So most probably everyone in this room can wake up in the middle of the night and recite the 1 in 6 statistics about people with disabilities globally. Yet this ratio is really rarely represented or nearly represented in the media, neither in front nor behind the camera. Recent researches find that only about 2 to 2.5% of primetime TV and highest grossing films have a person with a disability as one of the main characters. Even more alarming is that within these tiny numbers, about 95% of these roles are portrayed by non-disabled actors. Although we are seeing small changes, which started with some primetime TV shows like Speechless, Switched at Birth, Breaking Bad, that are featuring disabled characters in lead roles. And more recently with films like Crip Camp and in Netflix and Apple's Coda, which won an historic Oscar win for Best Actor and Best Picture, which really gave hope for better representation following that great success. But in fact, the number of new disability-inclusive TV and movie titles has been since, actually since 2019, been declined. It was peaking at 2019 with 365 titles and has since declined. This unproportionate representation has a direct consequence on the work of each and every one of you in this room and in this conference. However it manifests, this kind of erasing of disability, inclusion, and representation on screen amounts to an othering of disabled persons off screen. This absence in quantity and quality of exposure of stories and life experiences of people with disabilities on screen limits the ability of non-disabled people to understand, appreciate, empathize with, learn from, and respect the lives of those in our diverse community on an equal basis with their own. In the words of TV producer Shonda Rhimes, the goal is that everyone should get to turn on the TV and see someone who looks like them and loves like them. And just as important, everyone should turn on the TV and see someone who doesn't look like them or love like them. Because perhaps then they will learn from them. Perhaps then they will not isolate them, marginalize them, erase them. Perhaps they will even come to recognize themselves in them. This is true to film, TV, advertising, and performing arts. We have seen that the media has the potential to create lasting change in the hearts and minds of people with respect to other minority groups. And as many in the disability advocacy community are saying, it's about time to put the disability in diversity. And then, of course, another title that we run by is Nothing About Us Without Us. In order to create the necessary change, representation and inclusion of people with disabilities should take place behind the camera as well. From training, through programming and casting, to production, exhibition, and promotion. Inclusion and accessibility should be baked in and not an afterthought. I will skip a part because I think we should see some good film. But I will just say that 16 years ago, ReelAbilities was founded with a mission to change perceptions and remove barriers and to create a space where film lovers from all walks of life can come together and through riveting films and conversations promote disability, inclusion, and accessibility, both on and off screen. If the change that we at ReelAbilities have witnessed and have played a role in over the years is a microcosm of what can happen on a larger scale, then I'm very hopeful. This panel intends to provide an overview of these different layers of disability inclusion in media, addressing different pillars or 4 different pillars or layers from the industry to talent, to presentation and audience. To lead us into this conversation, I would like to share with you a short film, The Milky Pop Kid by an Australian filmmaker, Joanna Garvin, which is in a sarcastic and humorous way touches on many of the topics that we will discuss today. Hit it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm not here for your amusement. I'm not here for your amusement. Hello? I feel like disabled people are severely underrepresented in film and television. As an actor, I feel like it's my job to hold a mirror up to the audience so that you, as an audience member, can see me. And disabled people have mirrors too.
I get asked to do these consultancy things all the time. And the really frustrating thing is you never get paid to do it. But I decided to do this one because I wanted to meet the Milky Pop Kid. Hi, it's Jules. I'm here.
Great, come on up.
How do I get up there?
I'm so sorry.
Story of my life. No one ever thinks about access.
That's the sort of research I need to know. Stairs plus wheelchair. Not good. So, thank you for coming.
No worries.
Did the producers, they've filled you in with...
You've got a film, right? You want to do some research?
Yes, exactly right. So just to start with, like, a couple of questions that are, you know, pretty simple because, you know, we're getting to know each other. I don't want to go, like, too far into the deep end. But just to begin with, how do you have sex?
Oh, I don't know. Would you like me to give you a demonstration?
That's okay. That's okay. Have you seen any of my work or...
Oh, you're the Milky Pop Kid, right? I knew I recognized you from somewhere.
Well, I meant other things besides the Milky Pop Kid.
The jingle. You surely you still have the jingle.
I'm not gonna do the jingle. Milky Pops, Milky Pops. Every kid loves Milky Pops.
Yes!
I'm just trying to, you know, move past that.
Yeah, isn't it fun having things that we're trying to move past?
Exactly, you know, and I get stopped on the middle of the street and people want me to, you know, sign their Milky Pops and I'm like, you know, I'm a human being.
Nice to be recognized as a human being, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, getting stopped on the street all the time and like people giving you weird looks and things, you know all about?
I guess so, yeah.
The Milky Pop Kid was definitely a great launch for my career. I am a child of the method.
I'm so frustrated. I know that I could do a better job at this role than Craig ever could.
I'm just having trouble finding the disability inside of me.
I feel like a really good way to do that would be to take your shirt off.
Take my shirt off during the scene, or?
Well, let's try it now and see what happens.
So this is what it feels like to be disabled?
Yeah.
Right. Something else that I was trying to figure out
Yeah.
is the voice. I just want to sound like I'm disabled.
Do you have anything you could, you know, fill your mouth up with?
Put a couple in? Or?
Yeah. See what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Oh, that's
Try
good.
a few more.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Still not quite there.
More? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Keep it going, keep it going. I was only playing with him. I just wanted to see how far he'd go with his method.
Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. Daniel Day-Lewis in My Right Foot. You know, Julia Roberts and Erin Brockovich. As soon as I heard about the role, you know, a lawyer who's also disabled, you know, I thought, cha-ching!
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today you are called upon to make an important decision. And whatever you decide, it will impact the course of someone's life forever. But first, I advise you to check your assumptions. I am here because I know what it feels like to be judged and dismissed on the basis of first impressions, to have your truth denied and not be taken seriously. I believe that everyone has a right to be heard, and I will fight for that right until my dying days.
Thank you, Ravit, for, I think, really setting the right tone for the session. And I would be remiss before I introduce the next speaker to not point out of frame, our graphic facilitator, Petra Plička. She is drawing along and will graphically facilitate the session for us to really walk away not only with a verbal and a visual understanding, but also something which I think appeals to the kid in all of us, young and old, visual understanding of what we discussed today. So we'll bring in Petra towards the end of the session for a recap, but just wanted to also acknowledge her today with the room. Thank you, Petra, as always, for being with us. On that note, our next speaker, Evelyne Faye, fantastic director and filmmaker, and I'll let her fill in all the other details. Evelyne, the stage is yours.
Good afternoon. It's a big pleasure to be here today. To describe myself, I am a woman of color. I wear a dress, a long green dress. I have brown eyes. I have orange fingernails, and I'm a little bit over 25. I would like to introduce you, well, yes, thank you for the introduction, Robin. I am a filmmaker and an author, and I am also a very passionate mother of three wonderful children. One of them is Emmalou. Emmalou is 11 years old. She was born with Down syndrome, and since 11 years old, I am a dedicated advocate for inclusion. And I would like to show you 2 clips from my latest documentary, The Way You Shine, featuring Andrea Halder and Magdalena Tisci, 2 women in their mid-20s and 30s, both living with Down syndrome. In these clips, they are sharing their views on how society perceives them and how it impacts how it impacts their lives. So I won't tell more, and I just want to show you these 2 clips, and then we can reflect on them.
Also Magdalena, wenn du in den Spiegel schaust, wie findest du dich?
Naja, ich finde meine Frisur ganz cool. Ich liebe meine dunkelbraunen Augen sehr. Und meine vollen, sinnlichen Lippen.
Meine Lippenform finde ich äußerst sehr interessant. Ich habe mich nämlich sehr, sehr bemüht, mir meine Lippen anzumalen. Ja, und mein Ausschnitt trifft sich heute wunderbar gut wegen dem schönen Shirt. Ja, also ich fühle mich gut. Ja, sehr schick. Und im Hintergrund noch das schöne Sonnenblumenfeld.
Mein Gesicht schaut super aus. Ich habe schon meine Haare gemacht. Und noch schnell. Ja. Ich sehe so super aus. Was mir an meinem Gesicht gut gefällt, ist sehr so zart, weich. Ja.
Wie würdest du dich beschreiben?
Ui. Äußerst sehr zuverlässig. Äußerst sehr zuverlässig. Ja. Und eigentlich eine sehr hübsche, junge, flotte Frau. Ja, mit Down-Syndrom.
Eine Schublade, wo ich nicht gerne hineingesteckt werde. Ich will, dass andere Leute mich so sehen, wie sie andere Leute es ansehen und nicht als Down-Syndrom-Mensch. Ich hasse diese Etikettierungen. Ich kann damit nicht leben. Und auch so gerade das Wort Behinderung geht mir an den Kragen. Und weil wir anders sind, sind wir behindert. Ich verstehe das nicht. Ich weiß nicht, ob meine Eltern es wüssten, aber auch meine Eltern unterschätzen mich bei vielen Bereichen. Sie wissen nicht, wie schlau ich bin und wie nachdenklich ich bin bei vielen Themen und was ich alles über sie denke. Das ist sehr darüber hinaus als das, was ich eigentlich bin mit dem Down-Syndrom. Ich denke sehr oft wie ein Erwachsener und die sehen mich fast nur als Kind, das noch viel zu lernen hat.
So the clips were a little different, but then you could see more protagonists of the movie, which is great. As a filmmaker, I really wanted to provide a platform for individuals with disabilities here with Down syndrome to be at the very center of the frame. And this made possible, or this allowed them to express themselves in a way that their voices were directly heard without anybody speaking on their behalf. And because unfortunately this is what happens on a daily basis, that they are sidelined in society, and it's very easy to end up in a parallel, marginalized world with very limited contact with the main population. This is what I experienced since 11 years with Emelu, and it's very challenging to have to fight against it. So basically, because it's not easy for them to be seen at all and heard, one of my big aim of this movie was to create visibility. And as a mother of Emelu, I embarked in this film I embarked in a journey to find role models for her, for our family, and to challenge stereotypes and cliches about disability. And since Emelu was born, I could see that she has shown me that around her, the world around her often focuses on minimizing the negative aspects of her condition. And this leads to a very deficit-oriented perspective. So to counterbalance this negativity, I needed to find strong voices who, like Magdalena and Andrea, Rafael and Johanna that you just seen on screen, so that they could offer a positive influence and inspiring us to focus more on the possibilities and beyond the limitations. So it's been, as both a filmmaker and a mother, a very strong experience. And my aim was really to invite the viewers, especially the ones who don't have so much experience or touching points in their daily lives with people with disabilities, to listen and look beyond stereotypes and give them the opportunities to question their own biases. So, and regarding the filming process, the production process, it was very important for us to tailor the production processes around the rhythm, around the needs of the protagonists. And that meant we had to make adjustments regularly. So it started with a very strong relationship building between myself, my small teams, and the protagonists. So trust is the basic of everything. And so we were then in an ongoing dialogue so that we discussed about the scenes, and I would make myself, we would have a long conversation what they were aiming to do in the next days, weeks, months, and I suggested if I could come with the camera. And the main aim was that to make them feel comfortable throughout the whole filming process. But it really meant for the production company to be extremely flexible. So this is not always easy because of budget, time restrictions, but it is absolutely necessary. And so then at the end, it was these different mixtures which allowed us to create this, to capture their daily life in a sensitive way and in a very authentic way. And just as you showed in your clip, Ravit, there's one ingredient which was crucial for the making of the video, of the film from the beginning on, and that is humor. With humor, we could talk about all of these very serious matters in a way that reminded us that it's just part of our diversity. There is no place for pity, for something, I don't know, we can talk about all the needs we all have without having it to be heavy, and that was a very, very important aspect for me. So I can talk about a critical experience very shortly if I still have time during the editing process, or I can talk about it later as well. So I'd like to.
You are a good mind reader, Evelyne. But I take away from you and Ravit, as you touched upon, the power of humor, and also something you touched upon, that we all have our own rhythms. And good filmmaking, and I specifically am not saying disability filmmaking, but good filmmaking acknowledges that. And to further delve into filmmaking from a different perspective, we have next to us Yuria KNOLL, an actor, and I will let her introduce herself and her work.
Good evening, everybody. It's really nice to be here. I am surprisingly nervous because this is not the setting that I usually work in, believe it or not. So it's lovely to see you all. And yeah, I'm an actress, or as I'm now going to call it, I'm an actor. Yeah, so I'm an actress, I'm a freelancer. I work mostly in theater, and I recently also did my first film. I was the subject of a documentary that was filmed for a Japanese TV channel called WOW. They have a series that's called Who I Am, and the series follows disabled people. Specifically, it started with disabled athletes in their on their road to like the Paralympics. And then they expanded it to also include artists with disabilities. And yeah, they asked me to be part of it. And I'd love to show you the trailer, and then we can talk about everything else. Yeah. Okay, ich fahr jetzt rein, ja?
Willst du so oder so? Ja, es war ein bisschen schlecht getroffen. Ich fahre nochmal. So, jetzt passt, oder?
Sehr gut.
Wir sind im Volkstheater, das ist eine riesengroße Bühne. Ich weiß auch, wie ich das erste Mal hier war, weil ich war ja auf der Bühne auch schon, war ich urfasziniert davon, dass sie so riesig ist, also dass sie so weit in die Tiefe geht. Das ist schon immer spannend und es schaut ja auch in jedem Theater anders aus.
Ich weiß, aber die Waffe bringt dir gar nichts. Hey, du erschießt 3, die erschießen 13 oder 30.
Meine erste Erinnerung war, ja, da war die Yuria 15. Ich dachte mir, als sie zu sprechen begann, wow, die hat eine tolle Sprache. Sehr akzentuiert und das war für mich sehr faszinierend, weil ich dachte, das ist eine sprachbegabte Schülerin. Es gab dann ein Stück bei uns in der Schule, wo sie dann mitgespielt hat und da ist sie einfach so ein bisschen reingekommen. Und ich glaube, es ist so, wenn man einmal auf der Bühne steht, will man immer wieder auf der Bühne stehen.
I acquired a brain injury at birth. I was very premature.
Sorry, we're just looking for the version that has the English
This
subtitles.
was a language exercise to see amongst our
How's your German?
Japanese audience and German audience if you are also willing to help your participants who do not speak Japanese or German. And as we try to make jokes, the tech team will ensure that we have the right version of the film. For those of you who were able to understand the film so far, turn around and find someone who does not know Japanese or German and relay to them, short and sweet, what you just saw. And let's see. Question to the panel. Any good jokes you have on your mind? We were talking about humor and the essence of humor. Ravit, you seem to have one off the top of your tongue.
Only depends on how long more it will take, because we can advance the conversation in the meantime.
Try us.
So I was just, I was listening to Evelyne as well as Yuria, and more specifically in relationship to the Milky Pop Kid.
Okay. Ready?
No, they both have the same subtitles.
Oh, really?
They're both Japanese. All right, we'll take the opportunity, Yuria, there is a little glitch.
Yeah.
We won't be able to see the trailer, but if you can, I think, distill the essence of, and we'll pass on to our audience the right file, but if you could distill in essence the project and what stood out in the project for you.
Okay. All right, I'm a little bit sad about that because, so give me 3 seconds to get over it, and then I'll be right back. Cool. So, the trailer is up on YouTube if you want to watch it, and that does have English subtitles. You can find that pretty easily, so I hope if you're interested that you'll go and look for that. I'm sorry that it's been made a bit difficult. My apologies. I also don't speak Japanese, so, I was born in Japan, though, so I keep getting asked if I do speak Japanese, and I don't. So sorry. So yeah, the project, it was really fun. It was interesting, and I was very scared to do it and nervous, and I had a bunch of meetings and talks with my colleagues, friends, family about whether or not to do it, because in my experience, when non-disabled people make films about disabled people, they usually, no offense, fully mess it up. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to subject myself to that or to put myself in that sort of vulnerable position. But I watched some of the other episodes that are out already, and those were lovely, and I spoke in depth with the producer and the director. And I had very clear boundaries about what I wanted to film and what I didn't want to film, and I was very clear about it being a portrait that's very focused on my work. So the piece is 50 minutes long, and it's basically 50 minutes of me at work doing various things, mostly work as a stage actress, basically. There's some footage there of me being on tour and work, different contexts in which I work. I really cared that was the main ingredient of the film, basically, because when I was considering doing it, I was thinking about the stuff I make for disabled people, and I don't really care if non-disabled people enjoy it or not, to be honest. I'm not saying, like, I'm not actively excluding anybody. If you enjoy it, that's really cool, but to be honest, non-disabled people are not the audience that I'm catering to in a way that I think sometimes is abrasive to people, but I frankly am having a great time, and so I keep going. And I think I was thinking about this recently. I was born disabled, and that is different than acquiring a disability, because what happens, as Evelyne has said, is that many disabled people, or I guess most of us, we grow up without representation. We grow up without other disabled people around us, and specifically, we grow up without other disabled adults who are in positions of leadership, who are in positions of power, who get to make decisions. And so when I make stuff, what I think about primarily is what do I as a disabled person want to see? What do I find interesting? What is fun? What's engaging? And I really wanted to make sure that the film wasn't 95% about me being disabled and then, oh, also she's an actress, look at her on stage, cool. Like, I didn't want it to be one shot of me on stage and the rest of it being like, oh, it's hard to be disabled. It is freaking hard, but that's not the point, you know? So I was very intentional about setting the focus there, but I also have to say I was lucky, and I'm very grateful to WOW, because they were cool with that. They were happy to have me be like, okay, I want this, I want this, I want that, which is not usually how documentaries go. But then again, as the director kept saying to me, it was never meant to be like an investigative piece that's trying to find some hidden secret. It's very much just like, look at this person and look at what they do and how they live, that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, so that was basically sort of the goal. That's what we wanted to do. I hope that if you feel like it, you go and look at the trailer, because I really think it speaks for itself, you know? So yeah, I hope.
I think they found it too.
You did? Wow, my God, yay. Okay, cool, great. That's great, thank you.
Yes, a round of applause to the tech team. And next, adult beverages on us. Thank you for the support.
Okay, ich fahr jetzt rein, ja? Willst du so? Ja, es war ein bisschen schlecht getroffen, gell? Ich fahr noch mal rein. So, jetzt passt, oder?
Sehr gut.
Wir sind im Volkstheater, das ist eine riesengroße Bühne. Ich weiß auch, wie ich das erste Mal hier war, weil ich auf der Bühne auch schon, war ich urfasziniert davon, dass sie so riesig ist, also dass sie so weit in die Tiefe geht. Das ist schon immer spannend, und es schaut ja auch in jedem Theater anders aus.
Ich weiß, aber die Waffe bringt dir gar nichts. Hey, du erschießt 3, die erschießen 13 oder 30.
Meine erste Erinnerung war, ja, da war die Yuria 15. Ich dachte mir, als sie zu sprechen begann, wow, die hat eine tolle Sprache. Sehr akzentuiert, und das war für mich sehr faszinierend, weil ich dachte, das ist eine sprachbegabte Schülerin. Es gab dann ein Stück bei uns in der Schule, wo sie dann mitgespielt hat, und da ist sie einfach so ein bisschen reingekommen. Und ich glaube, es ist so, wenn man einmal auf der Bühne steht, will man immer wieder auf der Bühne stehen.
I acquired a brain injury at birth. I was very premature, so the doctors were excited that I made it, so that was good, but they also were very clear that they didn't know what that was going to mean, what effect the brain injury would have, and how much support I would need. I learned swimming before I learned how to walk. In the water, I felt really free, and it was really fun, and I was fast. But then I would get out and I'd be like, I don't understand how to make any of this happen. Like, I couldn't coordinate the things, and I would fall over all the time. But it took me until I was 4 to figure out how to walk at all. I started using a wheelchair when I was 16. I moved to Vienna, and I was trying to manage the further distances and public transport. so many questions. That's a bad idea. It's fine. No, it's not. Yeah. No, that's not cool. Why? Okay, cool. No worries. I'm just gonna turn around and go back. I always wonder, like, what does it feel like to have everybody look like you and move like you and be like you? I didn't see disabled people on stage until I was into my 20s. And when it happened, it kind of broke things in me. I was like, wait, I've been missing this.
Oh, Sklaverei des Volksdienstes.
Oh, Sklaverei des Volksdienstes.
Oh, Sklaverei des Volksdienstes.
Oh, Sklaverei des Volksdienstes.
Ja, schmähliche Knechtschaft.
Schmähliche Knechtschaft.
Schmähliche Knechtschaft.
So ein Scheiß.
So ein
schmähliche Knechtschaft.
Bleibt im Text. Schmähliche Knechtschaft.
Ich bin müde, diesem Götzen zu schmeicheln, den mein Innerstes verachtet.
Richtig. Gut. Ich finde, dass die Yuria ganz viel Power hat. Viele behinderte Menschen hören immer, das kannst du nicht, das kannst du nicht, das kannst du nicht, das kannst du nicht. Und dann sehen die, da kann jemand aber. Ich glaube, dass viele Leute, wenn sie das hören, sehen, Mut fassen. Die macht für andere die Tür auf. Und da kann sie eigentlich super stolz auf sich sein.
I didn't become an actor just to like represent disabled people. I'm lucky that I get to do this, and I'm lucky that it hopefully has a positive effect. I hope. I don't know. In my dreams, it does.
Du bist es leid. Erste.
Hey, Yuria, just to ask a quick question. I know we just got to see the trailer in English, but is the full documentary somewhere with captions in English?
Unfortunately, I don't know. What I do know is that if you are in Japan, it's on the WOW platform. So yeah, it's there. If you really want to see it, you can send me an email and we can figure something out. I do have a version with subtitles. It was really honestly interesting and fun to make something for a foreign market. But it does have the outcome now is that I've made this film and it's out, but it's still sort of hard to show people outside of like Japan. So that's kind of a thing that I'm sort of also dealing with. But yeah, if you really want to see it, let me know and we'll figure something out. And we will also definitely have a local screening sometime this year. And I'll definitely like send out a newsletter and let people know. And that will be obviously subtitled.
Well, ReelAbilities captions and audio describes all the films that are participating in the festival. So after ReelAbilities 2025.
Perfect.
Well, then I'll let you know.
Yes, I'll definitely get on that list.
Wonderful. And on that intervention, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who works for a company named after a popular fruit. Sarah, could you tell us more?
Hello, I'm Sarah HERRLINGER, and I work at Apple. I am a middle-aged Caucasian woman with long reddish blonde hair with a lot more gray in it post-COVID. And I am wearing a brown flowy shirt and black pants today. And I'm changing things up a little bit in this by talking about film from the format of sort of short film marketing pieces. At Apple, we are at our heart a technology company, and we build amazing hardware and software to support everyone, to make great products that we hope everybody uses. But as a piece of that, and I'm going to give a little background before I jump into showing my clips, but as a piece of that, as a company, we have a core set of values that are deeply integrated into everything that we do, and we lead with our values in the development of the technology that we make, the way we make it, and how we treat people and the planet that we live on. And so accessibility as one of those core values has been a part of our DNA from the very start of the company. Just for a little bit of context, our first Office of Disability was actually started in 1985, which was 5 years before the Americans with Disability Act even came to pass. So our commitment to this was not really because someone said so, but because we had people who from the start really believed that you make the best technology by making it for everyone. And so I give that as a little bit of the context before I show this clip, because I think one of the things that is really important in the development of marketing materials is you have to have a foundation of the technology actually working. You know, the product that you are talking about needs to be something that actually is deeply built into the technology that you're making. And so in this case, I'm going to show one of the ads that we created in 2022 about our technology. And I guess let's start it, and then I'll talk a little bit more afterwards.
Hey Siri, set my morning scene.
It's currently clear and 71
real quick,
degrees.
sorry.
Today's high will be 80 degrees.
Again, this should have closed captioning and audio descriptions running. Is that feasible on there? It should have both closed captioning and audio descriptions embedded in it.
We do have audio description in the room with us.
Okay, so for anyone outside, there will be?
Correct.
Okay, but no one in the room can hear the audio descriptions.
Hey Siri, set my morning scene.
It's currently clear and 71 degrees. Today's high will be 80 degrees.
Open weather. Swipe left.
I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was. I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was.
Describe images.
Flow like a butterfly, sing like a bee. His hands can't hit
A painting.
what his eyes can't see.
A red jacket.
Now you see me, now you don't. Sonny think he will, but I know he won't. Last week I murdered a rock into the stone. I spillized a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick.
I have wrestled with the alligator. Hustled with the whale.
Done handcuffs lighted.
Turn right.
Throw thunder in jail.
Tap, take picture. Tap, take picture.
Two doors detected. Text to stage. Door 4 feet away.
I'm young. I'm handsome. I'm fast. I'm pretty. The world judged me pretty like me. The world judged me pretty like me. What we gonna do? We're gonna dance. What are we gonna do? We're gonna dance. I shook the world. I shook the world. I shook the world. Shook the world. I shook the world. I shook the world. I shook the world. Shook the world. I shook the world.
I shook the world.
Thank you. So that is a film called The Greatest, and our goal with creating that was to share the impact our accessibility features have in the lives of our users, everyday people doing everyday things in everyday ways. It was our hope that when we designed this and created it, that we were able to represent or have positive representations of persons with disabilities. And so as a part of our approach, we worked with each individual who was in that piece to find out how they were using our technology and be able to show that on screen. Everybody who was a part of this on screen was somebody who is already an influencer, a creative, a professional, someone who is using social media to change society's perception of disability. And our goal was really just to give those individuals a larger megaphone with which to tell their story. And so, we worked with each of them on showcasing the way that they live their lives using the technology that we create to really just, show how everybody else uses our technology as well. And one of the things that we tried to do as we did this was to really look at every step of the development process. As I said, starting with building the technology in the first place. That starts with hiring people within the communities as employees of the company to help us build our technology. We believe very strongly in the nothing about us without us philosophy every step of the way of what we do. So a lot of the features that you see in there came as suggestions and ideas from individuals in the communities internally who would come to us and say, I just wish my phone would do X, and we would figure out how to make some of those things happen. Then it was about making sure that everything from the set itself was fully accessible, so that whether it was people in front of the camera or behind the camera, that there was inclusion every step of the way. And even then down to some of the post-production pieces of it, even the soundtrack was something that was very community involved. The words of it you might recognize as the speech of Muhammad Ali, who was a lifelong dyslexic and was diagnosed with Parkinson's in his 30s. But there were also elements that were from people who were featured in this as well. For example, the piano that you're hearing in the piece is actually played, that is Matthew Whitaker playing it, and we used it within the actual final music. Also, the post-production or production of the content itself was done by the DJ, producer, songwriter, Cola Boy, who has an amazing career. He's actually been, featured at Coachella as a DJ there, and he was the one who did the production of it and kind of put the whole piece together for us. So we really wanted to make sure that we engaged with the community every step of the way to make sure that it was an incredibly, accessible and inclusive piece. So that was our first one, and then if we can play the second one, and I don't know if we've figured out the captioning
And for those in the audience, audio description is channel 1.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Why, oh why, creature, are you so quiet? You've lost your voice. I'll help you find it.
Let's go. Let's look over here.
Maybe your voice is under the smog. No voice there, just this frog. Could it be up in that tree? Not in my tree. Nothing to see. Can it be found atop the mound? Or is it deep down underground? Have you checked in the boat? What did it fall back down your throat? Open your mouth, open wide. Why, I can't see your voice inside. It seems you have so much to say. I'm sure we'll find another way.
Read it again.
Okay. One more time.
So we decided to change things up a little bit last year and put out a different type of piece that was a lot, more focused around one specific feature that we developed and put out in 2023. And I think, once again, there's a lot of layers as to how we think about the development of a piece like this. And the first was the development of the feature itself. As we were thinking about this experience of someone who is both individuals who are non-speaking and those at risk of speech loss, we felt it was incredibly important to engage the community and better understand their experience. And so within the development of this feature, we actually worked with an organization in the US called Team Gleason that is one of the preeminent organizations supporting MND, or as we call it in the US, ALS, but supporting motor neuron disease. And one of the things that we found as we were working with them was, 1 in 3 people who are diagnosed with MND will lose their ability to speak over the course of their lifetime. And so we really worked with them to try and figure out what are the unique needs of this community to be able to work to create a digital version of their own voice. And so one of the things that we heard from individuals as we were working with them was that, how deeply they, in many cases, see their voice as an element of who they are. And so the fear of losing out on some of those deeply personal moments, like being able to read to a child, was something that caused a lot of anxiety for people. And so we really wanted to try and bring that to the forefront so people better understand not just that experience of speech loss, but how technology can play a role in really, keeping those moments alive. And so, this film was really deeply close to our heart because of all of the ways that we worked to take that feature and bring it to life on screen. One of the first things about it was we were very lucky to be able to work with an Academy Award-winning director, Taika Waititi, in New Zealand to be able to create this. And it was an all Kiwi cast that we used, including, and particularly the lead actor and narrator, who's Dr. Tristram Ingram. Tristram is an associate professor and physician working at the medical school of the University of Otago in Wellington. And in addition to being an incredibly accomplished doctor, researcher, and community leader, Tristram's life story is abundant in its own right, in that he, not only because of his shared connection to New Zealand's Indigenous community, but also because of Tristram's strong advocacy in the disability community in New Zealand and around the world. And interestingly, Tristram actually lives in Taika's hometown of Wellington. So Tristram has a rare form of muscular dystrophy that's known as FSHD, which causes progressive muscular degeneration and can lead to the inability to speak. And so about 10 years ago, Tristram began using a wheelchair, and in recent years, he's been noticing changes in his voice. So as part of the filming process, Tristram created his own personal voice. And the concept behind personal voice is that users at risk of speech loss can create a voice that sounds like them by following along with a series of randomly chosen text prompts to capture about 15 minutes of audio. And once you go through that process of gathering that audio, you can plug in your device, leave it overnight, and when you wake up, you can have the voice available to you on device. And all of this is also on device because one of our other key corporate values is privacy. So this is not something that is sent to the cloud or anything else. It's just, all the files and audio clips and everything are all kept on device and delivered to you in your own voice. We use this personal voice along with another feature that's called live speech to narrate the film itself. Live speech was the element in the end where he's typing on the screen and able to have that spoken out to his daughter in bed, as well as the phrases that he taps on, the pre-saved phrases. And all of that is done on the iPhone, the iPad, or the Mac. And so we just really wanted a way to be able to present this to the world as something that was done in a way that was witty, funny, comical, but also with a lot of, emotion to it so that people really understand, kind of the feature itself. So that's a little bit about that one.
Thank you for that, Sarah. I'm looking to our panelists. Would anyone like to jump in? Or if you allow me, Ravit, I will take the moderator's prerogative, because I'm looking into the audience and I can bet you there are questions. And if you allow me, I would open it up to the floor, bring it over to Petra, and then Ravit, you will close out the session. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Please do raise your hands. We have the lady in the striped sweater, please.
Hi, my name is Patricia Almeida from Brazil. I'm a white woman. I'm wearing glasses, curly hair, and I'm also in the media inclusion business. I run GADIN, which is a Global Alliance for Disability and Media and Entertainment Inclusion. And I'm a mother of a daughter with Down syndrome, and when she was born, I quickly understood that the question was not her, but it was ableism and the lack of accessibility. And one thing that I wanted to suggest is to use the CRPD to promote inclusion through media. We have Article 8, and we can ask our countries to be more inclusive in marketing, for example. And I also wanted to tell you about accessibility. It's by a Brazilian filmmaker with a disability, and when you ask how people with disabilities make sense, so for ReelAbilities or for any cinemas, I really want you to see this.
Patricia, do you have a question?
I just wanted to share that.
All right, thank you. If we could, because I think for all the other audience members, questions are always the most interesting ones, where we learn from each other. So if there are any questions, please do raise your hand. And for those who are seated against the wall, feel free to raise your hand and also approach the table with the microphones if you would like to ask a question. I think the lady in the gray blazer, please.
Hello, first of all, thank you to Zero Project organizing committee for organizing such an amazing event. I'm Sofia Nadirete, representing country of Georgia, and mainly I work with parents of children with disability, and we do storytelling and narratives and etc. And in Georgian media, what we face is like either the people with disability are presented as heroes, or on the other side as a charity model, like emotions and etc. So what will be your tips, like from your personal findings, how to regulate and how to balance this, like what to consider to like approach and do the storytelling as it should be? Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll start on that one. I think the first place is engaging the community to figure out what story they want to have told. Most of the tropes that come up around, superhero or infant come from able-bodied people wanting to, or thinking they're telling the right story when they haven't actually engaged the community to find out, how do you want to be presented? Who are you? I mean, for us, when we do things like our ads, it starts with working with the community and understanding, how are you using our technology? What does your daily life look like, so that we're portraying them with authenticity?
Sorry, can I add something? Absolutely. I think what Sarah just said is really key. And then the next step would be just to let the people speak for themselves, because as soon as you introduce, as soon as you let the person speak, you go away from these, like either or, like being a hero or someone who's like having such a poor life and stuff. So I think these are really, really important aspects to consider, like speaking with the community and then letting people speaking in their own voices without having anybody speaking for them.
Hi, person with an actual disability here. Thank you for that question. I think the number one thing, which is Sarah has already said, is to work with the communities to hire disabled people. And as Sarah has mentioned, like to hire disabled people for the entire process of making something. So whether that's like an event or a show or, I don't know, film, theater, whatever it is that you're making, make sure that you are first and foremost looking for disabled people to actually hire. I honestly get very frustrated when people want to make something and then they go out into the community and they ask for our knowledge and our expertise and they go and take it and then they leave. Like the least you could do is give us jobs. And I'm at a point where, like I said, the things I make them for other disabled people. I make the stuff that I'm interested in, I make the stuff that I care about, because I don't think that it is my job to make the world more accessible, because I didn't mess this up. This is not my problem. I wasn't put on this earth to fix something I didn't break. So really, every non-disabled person in this room has to be aware that you are holding a certain amount of power and privilege as a non-disabled person. And it is your job to pass the mic. It is your job to find the people within the community, to hire them. And like the thing is, it's not just hiring disabled people. It is hiring people, absolutely, and it is giving us money and resources, it is that, but it is essentially about passing along power. The narratives that you spoke about, the hero or infant, or like what I always say is like hero or victim, and you can't be anything in between. It is harsh to hear that, but what this is about is it's about power. Like you can tell me all you want that the people who do this mean well, and that might be true, but that does not protect them from doing harm. So, I think for me, I noticed that this is really about non-disabled people, bringing the right people onto projects, meaning disabled people, hiring them, putting them in positions of power. And I know that this is not a comfortable situation to be in, to hand off power. That's scary, but you gotta do it. And if you're not doing it, then you're not doing a good job. Like, you know, I think that's where it's at essentially, and I'm really, like the work I do, I'm like an actress, I'm a silly goof, you know? Like I'm a silly goof and I'm dramatic, that's all really. And I like to read and I like to tell stories. So that's what I do most of the time. The other thing that I spend my time on is creating rooms for disabled people, empowering disabled people by like involving them in processes. And that's about like representation and about seeing other people who look like you, about growing up with people who look like you. And I don't think it's fair that there's often this thing of like asking disabled people to fix things, but never actually handing off the power. Like if you actually want change, give power to a disabled person. Obviously choose that person well and like, you know, don't just, yeah, but like hand off power and like get used to what it feels like to deal with that. Because I see way too many non-disabled people building entire careers on working around access, which is great. It is good that you are doing that work, but you have to consider and think about who keeps holding the power and who holds the privilege. And I think it is okay and necessary for that to not be a comfortable process. Like if you're comfy, I don't know if you're doing it right, sorry. You know, so yeah, it's a long answer, but.
I'm looking around the room for one last question.
There would be one in the back there, Robin. I can pass the microphone if you want.
Wonderful. Let's do that, Petra. Thank you.
It's not a question, it's actually a statement, more or less. If you're working as a journalist, which I have been doing for years now, if you do an interview with someone who is disabled, don't make the mistake focusing on the disability. People are more than their impairment. And so try to work around, try to show the person, but not just the disability. A woman with disability could also be a mother, could be an employee, could be a consumer. Tell the whole story and not just the first 2 seconds of the movie, you know?
Thank you for that statement.
there's a lot
and
of
Petra,
applause there.
as you walk back, the lady in the gray scarf, if we could get a question with
Thank you.
focus on
Yeah,
question. Thank you.
Mine does end with a question mark. My first question is, which members of the panel identify as disabled?
That's a very
Yuria?
good question. I feel like maybe I didn't do a good job. I'm disabled, for example. Like I said, was born disabled, and yeah, I don't know about anybody else.
Nobody else? Right,
Well,
so I would say we have a production company for and by disabled people. That's the first problem, right? And Yuria, I think everything you spoke to is exactly where the shortcomings in media are. That there are a lot of non-disabled people that feel that they can be facilitators for telling disabled stories. And that is a misappropriation of power. And so my question, Yuria, is tonally, when you're watching disabled people in films, what you notice ontologically is different between a disabled person telling a story with a disabled crew versus non-disabled people helping to tell a story or thinking they're helping to tell a story.
That's a very good, well-formulated question. Thank you. Are you asking me specifically, or because, you know? Right. And sorry, Ravit, you wanted to say something else? Or was it? Go ahead. Cool. All right. So, for me, like it's been mentioned, the storyline of like victims or heroes. I actually did a radio piece about this that essentially like breaks down what that is about and the mechanisms that work here. Which it is a mechanism. It's actually, if you look into it, it's really boring. It's about othering. It's about holding power about another person. Even like inspirational stories, you know, like they're about othering. They're about making disabled people either superhuman or victims who are not fully human. And I see a lot of that all the time everywhere, and I've just sort of been like, okay, whatever, like I'm over it at this point. I do think that there are more stories being told by disabled people, and I really appreciate that, and I really want to do work to uplift that. Like, I'd rather uplift those stories than to be out here doing work on access, because you can handle that. I don't, you know, whatever. So, and I think the difference really is that when I see stories that are told by disabled people, it's often like they're just way more complex and richer. They're not just about one aspect of a person's life or of a story. And I think that's really the essence, is that in the media right now, what's happening is that everything we see, or almost everything, goes through the lens, the non-disabled lens. Even when we bring disabled people onto projects, even when we work with disabled people, there is still this underlying problem of using the lens of non-disabled people to look onto that story. That is why I was saying we need to pass along power, because when we do that, then a disabled person who's actually affected by ableism gets to decide what story gets told and how it gets told. And I find the sort of inspiration porny, victim blame, all that stuff, I find it incredibly boring and flat. Like, the thing that I notice is that it is often, like, a reaction I constantly have is like, I watch something that's about disability and is clearly by non-disabled people, and I'm like, but that's boring, or that's lazy storytelling, right? So that's like the main reaction that I have, is that like, it often ends up, like, something that happens all the time is the disability being a plot point, which, what is that? Because what does that do exactly? Because it's like, people are born disabled, things happen, but there's not a tragic arc there, not really. And so I find a lot of non-disabled people end up sort of using disability as a plot point where something tragic happens, and then, you know, like, and I think stories told by disabled people are by nature a lot more complex and a lot more interesting, and I really appreciate and enjoy that they do often mention the disability and speak about it and see that as part of as part of their identity, but they're not exclusive to that. And one other thing, I'm sorry, I'm taking a very long time, but I think it's important. One other thing that I'm currently like grappling with and thinking about that's rolling around my brain is that I think a lot of the problem with non-disabled people telling disabled people stories is that y'all forget that disability is also culture. It is language, it is, you know, it's knowledge, it's expertise, it's concepts, it's jokes, it's humor, it's all these things. And when I see disabled people telling stories, as the film that we saw earlier, the Milky Pop Man, like it's funny and it brings in all the cultural aspects of disability. And I think I would really love to see more of that. I think those are the aspects that differ in that sense. Yeah, I hope that was helpful.
To Yuria, thank you for your candid answer. I think it really is great takeaway. I'll leave it at that. You mentioned lazy storytelling. The opposite of lazy storytelling is our graphic facilitator, Petra Plička, which will now give us a graphical run-through of what we just heard. And then, as mentioned, we'll be handing back to Ravit, who will close us out for tonight's event.
Okay. Sarah, I'm very sorry, but I'll have to move in front of you so the camera can capture. And I think Evelyne too, I'm sorry. Okay, are we in film? Are we on screen? We want to be on screen. The question today was disability narrative, how does it work on screen? And what am I supposed to say after such a great speech we just heard? Nevertheless, I think we should remember we started at 3:10, and we heard a lot of interesting information, and we saw a lot of clips and good role model experiences. To summarize, how do we make disability work on screen? We can do film festivals. We can do films, be filmmakers, be passionate filmmakers, be an actress on screen or on stage, or make authentic advertising. So use filmmaking in marketing. And even though you were very clear on the point that people with disabilities have to be part of everything from the beginning onwards, or not even though, but I think that's what I heard as a message. I heard from the film festival that nothing about us without us, having the community, having the people involved in every part of the process, also of the film festival, in the filmmaking, in your work anyways, nevertheless. Also in marketing, we heard from the tech company with this fruit, that to me it sounded very authentic, having the community involved in the product design and in creating the advertising. And if this is real, and I believe so, with the film festival, with the filmmaking, with the acting, and with marketing, then I think this is the answer to the question. Handing off power was another thing, and not another thing, I think that's the last message we should take out today. Handing off the power from the able-bodied people to the disabled people to tell their own stories. That's it. Oops.
How long more do we have? We have 2 minutes, or?
You get 5 minutes.
Sorry?
5.
5, okay. Well, I did have, there's so much to talk about still. I can't believe this 80 minutes passed like that. And what I've heard is so much crossover between the different layers and pillars that we were trying to establish, but really accessibility and inclusion needs to be baked in from start in every aspect of the content making. We didn't get to talk about, we had some technical issues with audio description and captions, and actually the clip that I wanted to show was specifically addressing that and making films or making content for other disabled people or for the general public to actually educate them and break down barriers. But we don't have time for the second clip, so I will let it be as is. And also, the last question raised, I think that, for me, I think that it brought up another issue that is important to talk about. It's about looking at disability in the broad way of expressions of disability, not only the visible disability. And that also needs to be, it's not only about the villain or the hero, it's about also having different expressions of disabilities on screen. It's about, even within the disability community, as we love to say, you met one person with a disability, you met one person with a disability. So even within the disability community, we're not all alike. And there is so much more to learn about the different experiences within the community. And when we're showing a film about cerebral palsy, we still are captioning and audio describing it because it's not only people with cerebral palsy that will come to watch the film. We're making it also accessible for the blind and low vision, for hearing loss or deaf, and it goes across the different types of disabilities, and in ReelAbilities we show films from across the spectrum of disabilities, the range of disabilities, including mental health, deaf culture, and even rare diseases, anything that really prohibits you from being a full part of society. And we present all these films with all the accessibility accommodations that are available out there, including visual stories, not as beautiful as these, but visual stories and sensory-friendly environments and sensory-friendly rooms, braille materials, assisted devices, listening devices, really anything that we can, even charging stations. So, and we learn as we go, and we listen, and everyone on our team is a member of the disability community. And also there is a lot to talk about intersectionality, because disability is one of the only minority group that is a member of other minority groups as well, and that anyone at any moment can join that community. So on that note, I hope that we will see more of these conversations happening on screen, off screen, that more of the great examples that we've seen will be continued being made. And we live happily ever after. But yeah, that's it.
We'll walk and ride bikes down a street. A performance by Kitchen's Light. Art.
There's extra curriculum now.
Bonus points.
Okay. Right on. Well done.